Good morning. This is Kamera again. We're on day number 78, Judges 3 through 5. That's Judges chapter 3, 4, and 5. Okay, we read in the last scripture, yesterday's reading, that God allowed some of the nations to remain in the midst of the children of Israel. He allowed them, he says, he's going to allow them to be tempted by the others' gods. In this reading, it start off with that again. God names the nations who he allowed to stay there. And he says that it's because he wanted to teach them warfare. And when I read that, I just sat there for a little bit and I'm thinking, we have warfare too. There are temptations all around us as well. And I thought about Adam and Eve when they were in the Garden of Eden, how God allowed that tree of good and evil to stay there. And I'm like, he allows temptations to be around us, and he expects for us to choose to do right. He allows us to choose right. And so he allowed those nations to stay there, allowing the children of Israel to be tempted by their gods. And what happens? Children of Israel be tempted by their gods. They start intermarrying. They already said, God already told them, don't intermarry with those nations. So the daughters of Israel started marrying the men of those nations. The men of Israel started marrying the women of those nations. And they started serving their gods. They turned their back on God. They totally forgot about God and started doing their own thing. So God allowed them to be turned over to a king of a certain nation. It was this long name like Aram something. And he allowed them to oppress the children of Israel. Children of Israel cried to God. I mean, he actually had them oppressed for over 8 years. So they cried out to God. God sends a judge, a leader, to help deliver them. And so that first person that comes up is Othniel. Remember Othniel? He is Caleb's son-in-law. Remember when Caleb wanted to claim a certain land, he said, anyone who goes and capture, destroy the inhabitants of that land, then I will give them to marry, my daughter to marriage. And so Othniel was that person. So now Othniel is a judge, and he leads the children of Israel into battle, and they destroy that nation, that king of his nation who had them oppressed. And so then after that, peace for 40 years. After Othniel died, though, children of Israel went back to doing evil things, serving other idols, serving Baal, they're worshiping the Asherah poles and all that stuff. Totally looking past what God has taught them. But this is the thing, though, guys. They were taught. They were taught who God was. God told the children of Israel to teach their children. And if they had peace for 40 years, and they served God for those 40 years, during those 40 years, even if there's only a remnant, they heard what God had said. They knew the promises of God, but they decided to do their own thing. They went evil, doing their evil things. So God allowed them to be taken by another king. And this king right here, he oppressed them. Did I write that down? He oppressed them for about 18 years, even longer than the first king. 18 years. 18 years they were oppressed. And so they cried out. And so God sent another judge. And that judge is Ehud. Ehud, they had to make known that he was left-handed. He created this double-edged sword. And he always had that hidden on his right thigh. And so the children of Israel would have to go and pay tribute to the king. And so during one of these trips, Ehud and whoever was with him, they went and paid whatever they're supposed to pay to this king. And so when they got to a certain point, I guess where some idols were, Ehud turned around. He goes back to the king and he tells the king, I have a secret message for you. So king gets rid of all his guards, whatever officials were there. He locks the door and he goes back and get his message. And so Ehud tells him, Well, this message is straight from God. So he grabs the hidden sword and he plunges it in King Eglon, I believe his name, stomach. Says that he's a fat guy. So when he stabbed him in the stomach, fat just rolled over onto the other side of the sword. And the sword remained there. And so this is the crazy part. This is the gross part. Ehud escapes through the latrine. He escapes through the latrine. Yeah, latrine meaning toilet. In those cases, I'm sure it was the outhouse or however. How deep was that thing, right? Oh, that's so disgusting. So yeah, he escapes that route. And so the guards go to check on the king, see what's taking so long. The door is locked. They're like, oh, he must be doing his business on the latrine. Oh, my God, it's so disgusting. And so after a while, they do find that the king is dead. Ehud is long gone. Ehud goes back and says, God has delivered him in our hands. They battle, and they remain peaceful. A peaceful land for about 80 years. About 80 years. And so as long as, this is the thing though, I noticed that whenever a judge remains in position alive, the children of Israel do good. Once they die, that's it. There was another judge that came up after Ehud, but as long as the judges are there, but they started doing evil right after Ehud died, though. That's the crazy part. But there was peace in the land for 80 years. And so, yeah, they started to do evil again. And then God allows another nation to come and oppress them. And there was a captain of a guard at that time that used to just oppress children of Israel. He oppressed them for like 20 years. You guys notice that it started at 8 years, then it's 18, now it's 20 years. This guard, he oppressed the children of Israel for 20 years. The king at that time was Jabin, and it was his commander who would just oppress the children of Israel. And so Deborah is the judge at this time. Female judge. People would come to her for judgment. She was a prophetess. And she sent a message to Barak and told Barak to gather together, I think Zebulun and Naphtali, 10,000 men, and go out to battle against Sisera. And then so once he goes to battle with Sisera, then God will give them victory. This is what Deborah told Barak. So Barak was like, I go if you go with me. Deborah was like, okay, but if I go, then there's no honor that's going to become upon you. It's going to say that a woman defeated Sisera. Clearly, Barak was okay with that. So they go out to battle, and God causes a panic through Sisera and his army. Isn't it something how God assists in those battles? Guys, this is something to think about. When God tells us to do something, he is right in there with us. It may seem difficult. Just trust him. You never know how it's going to work out. So he causes Sisera to get such a fear that he jumps off of his chariot, running on foot. He runs, right? So he escaped. He runs and leaves his men to battle, right? Children of Israel kills them off. And so where does Sisera run? Sisera runs to Jael's. Jael is actually, she is the wife of Moses' brother-in-law's tribe, from that lineage. So Moses' brother-in-law, the descendants from that tribe, a wife there of that brother-in-law's tribe, from that brother-in-law's lineage. And so King Jabin, they were on friendly terms. And so Sisera he pretty much felt safe running there. And so Jael, female, she calls him and she's like, come here, I'll hide you. And so then she tells him, she lays him down, she places a blanket over him. He's like, I'm tired, I'm thirsty, can you grab him some water? She grabbed him some milk, and he fell asleep. So once she was secure now and knowing that he was asleep, she takes this peg and this nail, and she just plunges it through his head. She just kills him right there. Plunges him right. Bam! Goes through to the ground. Kills him dead. Now he felt secure knowing that he was going to be okay. Clearly he wasn't. Jael took care of him. And so Barak goes to look for Sisera, And JL goes out and tells him, I have the man you're looking for. She takes him and she shows him that she's killed Sisera. She killed him. So we had a female prophet, and then we had this female warrior. I call it warrior, a helper, who takes care of the enemy. Isn't that something? And so Deborah, what happened was the children, after what Jael had done it, for some reason, the children of Israel got stronger and stronger, and they defeated the king of Jabin. They defeated him. And so Deborah creates this song. And so in this song, she tells the entire story. She tells about how a couple of the other children of Israel around them, their tribes, saw what was going on. They didn't do anything. They didn't have what battle. She just goes through and talk about what God did for them and how he delivered the children of Israel. She makes mention of Jael, how Jael did that honorable thing. And so she Deborah, female leader, right? I think that's the first female leader that we've read so far, female leader. And so, says after that, children of Israel had rest for 40 years. That's where we are right now, guys. But you guys notice the pattern, though, how when things are going good, eventually children of Israel always turn back and serve other idols. Maybe they get comfortable. Did you guys notice how there was temptation there and the children of Israel go into that, they follow that temptation and start serving other idols and forget God? We have to look at that according to our lifestyle as well, guys. What are we influenced by? What are we conforming to? Are we forgetting God because we're so wrapped up in life that we're leaving God out of our life? So there's a lot there, guys. I really enjoyed it. Ask God for understanding that. Ask him to help you to see yourself. Lord, what do you want me to learn from this lesson? Lord, what do you want me to see in this lesson? And, Lord, help me to be faithful and true to you. This is an individual walk, guys. We can't depend on our leaders to be there for us all the time, but God is there all the time. He's the one who will lead you. It's important that you read your word. It's important that if you have a leader that you're following, that you be obedient to your leader. If you trust that God placed them over you, then trust whatever they ask you to do, basically. But get to know God on your own personal level. Okay, so that's day number 78. Day number 78, Judges 3, 4, and 5. Gotta love this word, guys. Gotta love it. You guys have a blessed, wonderful, awesome day, okay? God bless.